Hi everyone and welcome to And So On. My name is Lisa and today is part 2 of Can I Make a Madewell Top? Well, I can't quite answer that yet because I actually haven't finished, but I feel pretty confident that we're going to get to where we're going. So it is quite an overcast day here in Sitges, a little bit cooler. So I'm cozy in my Hudson pants and my Trescow jumper from Along avec Anna that I made, and I'm ready to get back to work. So far this morning I ironed all my pieces and I took another closer look at the top because I have to figure out the sleeves. So I'll put in a picture of the screenshot here that I was looking at. And essentially it looks like it's a gathered sleeve and there's a button at the back, and I think by looking at it that button might be functional. I'm not positive, so I've got to figure that out because I don't see a placket, but I do see a button that is gathered. So I don't know, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that yet. I'm also still debating how to finish the neckline. I'm going to wait till it's put together before I decide that. And I have figured out how I'm going to insert the ruffle. So what I've needed to do is attach the pieces at the shoulder first, because normally I would attach the front to the front and the back to the back and then attach the shoulder seams. But because the ruffle is all in one piece, I need the front and the back seams to be all in one piece, if that makes sense. So I'm about to do that and I will show you as I'm getting that going, and then I will insert the ruffle, and I kind of think it's gonna go swimmingly. Famous last words. Okay, so here are the front and back pieces attached at the shoulder seam. And now I'm going to lay the ruffles in here and then do up these two front seams. Okay, so I have attached the ruffle to the center section all the way down. I actually had to repin one side because they weren't equal. And then also I have on the sides that kind of runs off so that the edge runs into the seam. And then I'm going to flip this over and sandwich the ruffle in the middle and just readjust every pin to then sandwich everything in the middle. Looks kind of cool though, eh? Okay, so here we are. We're all sandwiched up, all pinned up, and I'm going to take her to the sewing machine. Okay, so here we go. We've got the ruffles attached. I think they're pretty good. If anything, I'm a little concerned about how they're falling in the front, but it might just be because the side seams haven't been done. Let's look at the back. Back is looking good too. Looks pretty even. And honestly, if I don't like the way the ruffles are falling, I can cut them again and then just finish the edges. So I'm going to finish these edges and then do the side seams. I have finished the edges on the ruffle. And the other thing that I did is I stitched in the ditch down the center seam of the two ruffles. So the two ruffles, but on the center side, just to make sure that that seam is nice and crisp, and then gave it a good press. And the other thing I wanted to show you is this is the thread that I got to use for this fabric and also another fabric, but it's hard for me to get thread, and so I don't want to run out of this because I don't have a ton. So when I'm doing construction stuff or finishing seams, because I don't have a serger here, I'm just using this navy. It doesn't really bother me, you know, having the seams a different color. And then I'm using this for top stitching or anything that's going to show on the outside of the garment. So that's just a way to, you know, maximize my perfectly colored thread. Okay, so now I have the sleeves here. So I'm going to construct the sleeves, and actually no, I have to do the side seams first. I'm going to do the side seams and I'm going to check the fit before I finalize that. And then I will add the sleeves. Not done yet, but it's coming along pretty well. Those are some nice, oh, there's a baby. Okay, I wanted to show you that I have constructed the sleeve. I haven't put the cuff on yet because I'm still figuring that out. This is how I gathered the shoulder. And I find that once I've gathered it a little bit, I find that if I kind of smooth everything out and create this very much the shape it'll be on the body, I have a much easier time pinning it in place rather than just kind of guessing where the gathers go. If I can smooth it out so that at, say, a ½ an inch or 10 centimeters or wherever you are going to be stitching, that it's smooth, then I don't get as many puckers, or hopefully no puckers. Anyway, I have the first one pinned and I'm starting that right now, and then I will do the other one. Okay, first try on. I think perhaps I have put these too far out. I feel like they should be more here. Do you know what I mean? Like that's where they should be. But if I do that, I'm not gonna be able to get it on and off. I also feel like this neck is not low enough. I feel like it needs to go to like there. So I'm gonna cut the V-neck down more. I also might take the sleeves in a little bit more because I didn't do the French seams that are required on the shoulder, and so I feel like if I take the shoulder seam in a bit more, it might pull it in a bit more. I could actually take this in a tiny bit. That would pull it in closer too. I'd lose a little bit of the edge though. Do you know what I mean? Like if I took this in a tiny bit, it's already a little bit tight in the shoulder, but even if I just did it at the bottom, you know what I mean? Like down here. Anyway, I'm gonna take down this. I'm gonna figure out what I wanna do with the sleeves. I think I'm just gonna put a cuff on them and slightly gather them. I don't think I'm gonna use a button. It's kind of getting a little old. And I want it to be done. So, but it's definitely looking similar. We just need some finishing details to really get there. I've decided to try to pull in the front of the top a little bit by, from the bottom of the ruffle, taking it in a little bit. So I'm going to take it in just like ½ an inch, 3/4 of an inch on each side, and to see if that kind of just pulls it in a little bit and gives it a bit more shape. Okay, try on number 2. I do think that that was a good thing to do, to take it a little bit below, and I also lowered the neckline by about 1 inch. And I also think that makes it a little more flattering. I also think once I pull it in and gather the sleeves a bit, that'll also be more flattering. Let's tuck into the shorts and see how it looks. Yeah, cute. I think it's gonna work as a faux jumpsuit really well. And I also think it'll be great just to wear with other shorts or a skirt or whatever. I definitely like the lowered neckline. And I do wish that it came in a little more like this. I should have angled these in a bit, but what are you gonna do?
Good morning. I'm afraid I had a terrible night's sleep last night. I was quite ill in the middle of the night. I'm fine now, but it was not very good. So in the morning, I just don't have the heart to be on camera right now, but I am recording stuff and I'll give you a little voiceover as we go. So here I am just prepping the cuffs for the sleeves by turning in the edges by about 1 centimeter and then folding them in half. And that to me just makes it easier to then attach the cuff both to initially to the outside and then turn them in. Now I'm just doing a long basting stitch around the sleeves so that I can gather them and make sure that they fit properly within the cuffs. And so now I'm pinning the right side of the cuff to the right side of the shirt sleeve, trying to make sure that the gathers are equal all the way around. And this usually takes me a little bit of time to make sure that everything is even, but it's worth it in the end. And now I'm sewing that down. And then I fold back that seam and make it nice and smooth. Fold under the second part of the cuff, and then I'm just pinning it right in the ditch to make sure that I'm catching the back of the cuff at the same time, and that way I can just stitch in the ditch all the way around and hopefully catch the back as well, and it's a nice clean finish. This process is slow, slow, slow. I'm always trying to make sure that I can feel the edge of that cuff, and sometimes it goes better than others, I have to be honest. Usually what happens is halfway through I get really impatient, and so I just start going faster and then I miss a portion. And if I've done a good job, I've caught that on the back and it's all secure and all of the raw edges are enclosed. Of course, sometimes I don't do such a good job, and on this one, on the second cuff, I got impatient and I ended up with a big gap that didn't have any stitching, and so I'm just stitching that closed with a needle and thread. And I think this is the same stitch that I used to close bias binding on a quilt. I know there's a name for it, I can't think of what it is, but I just tend to slowly grab one few tiny little threads from the main part of the fabric and then go through right at the fold of the upper fabric so that the stitches are barely noticeable. So I have created the bias binding and I've attached it to the right side of the V neckline. And now I'm understitching it, which means I am at 1/8 of an inch stitching the bias binding to the seam allowance, and that will help it to fold in and be a little more smooth. So now I have turned in that bias binding and pressed it and made sure to try and steam the curves so that it lies flat. And then I will pin down the bias binding, making sure to roll that seam to the inside so that it doesn't show. And then I'm going to stitch that down by hand exactly the way you saw me do with the cuff.
Okay, and here's the finished product. So in the end, I finished the bias binding by hand, and I just feel like that's going to give it the best edge, and it will sit flat more than using the machine, which I think it does. I also top stitched around the edge of the cuff and stitched in the ditch. I decided against putting a button. I just didn't think it was necessary. And then for the hem, I actually only turned the hem under. I stitched it and turned it under one, because this pattern is actually not as long as the original, and it was going to turn out about 2.5 inches, 2 inches shorter either way. So there she is. Let's see if the back looks different. And then there's the back. So now I'll try it on with the shorts and see how it looks.
Yeah, I think it looks really cute with the shorts. I think the belt really helps kind of define the waist and pull it in a little bit and hold everything steady so that the shirt stays tucked in. And I think that they're the perfect little combo.
Okay, so that's it. I'm feeling much better this afternoon. Thank you for bearing with me and letting me do a voiceover this morning. I would say I'm about 85% happy with this. I do feel like the change I made to the neckline was right. I also think that I did a good job on the sleeves. I do wish that although the ruffles are the right shape, I do wish that I had brought them in just a little bit more, but what are you gonna do? I think it looks very cute with the shorts, which is why I did it to begin with. And it also looks cute just with the jeans or, you know, a jean skirt or whatever. I'm also really happy with all the hand detailing. I hand did the bias binding on the neck, and just the extra finishing details that I think, because we now have some extra time on our hands, I'm really enjoying taking more time to really finish things well. French seams on the sides, French seams on the sides here. I really took my time with all those details, and I really feel like that's something that's going to come out of this experience for me as a sewist, is that it is worth taking the time to do the finishing details, and more than that, it's actually really enjoyable, and I don't think in the past I would have thought that. Anyway, that's all for today. I'm loving this process. I hope you are as well. If you have any suggestions for me, something you think I'd like to try, something you think that I'd like to copy, please leave it below. If you enjoyed this, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm already thinking of what I want to do next, and I'm really excited to share that with you. So I will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.